Play that music. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Restitching the Tapestry. Your resident Giaddy is here to start.
Excuse me. I'd like to talk to the manager. I'm sorry. I'd like to talk to the manager.
Are you here to talk about the Pride stuff?
I'm sorry. It said demon.
Oh my god, I'm so I literally can't even right now. So, hello everyone. Happy Pride Month. As you can see, Ari and I have wanted to feel these characters that we've created tonight. I am a Pride Daddy, and Ari is...
Call me Karen.
Target Karen.
Karen to you, but not Karen.
And we, obviously being that it's the first day of Pride Month, we really wanted to sit down, have a conversation about Pride in general, but we also want to talk about performative Pride. This episode is probably going to be a little heavy.
I'm sorry. What about straight Pride?
Every month is straight Pride Month for you. Oh my goodness. But really though, there's so much stuff going on and we need to talk about it. But also we need to feel the spirit of Pride Month. And I think that warrants having an educational conversation about performative pride and all the things that have been happening with it, right? So obviously per the usual, Ari, how have you been and what have you been up to?
I've been doing great. Actually, I've been doing really good in my class right now. I have been killing these theory papers. I got an A- on my last paper. It did so good. And my professor was like, I have almost nothing bad to say about this paper. You did so good. And I was like, I'd like to thank the Academy. I'd like to thank God.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm glad that it went well though. That's important.
Yeah, because it's a hard subject. Literary theory is really hard because you have to.
It is.
It's like analysis. So, and like my advisor called me and he said, have you thought about teaching? And I was like, I don't know. No, he was like grumbling and he's like, have you maybe thought like interning? And I was like, I don't know, maybe.
I could see you being a teacher. I could.
I don't know, maybe. Anyway, how are you?
Oh, I'm great. I've just been gardening a lot. I've been doing a lot of yard work. Ari, I got bit by a tick the other day. Did I tell you about that? A tick. They are disgusting. So,
Did you pull it out or did you burn it out?
They say you're supposed to pull it out with tweezers.
Yeah.
I did get it out. But so our final phase of yard landscaping was to mulch the yard, right? Mm-hmm. So we bought a bunch of mulch and we were in the grass all over the ground, and I get in and I feel something weird on the back of my leg, a tickle, and I'm like, what is that? So brush my hand over it and it was an effing tick. A tick was biting me.
No.
I freaked out. I was just like, oh hell no. Because in the middle of the city, I did not expect to encounter a tick. If I were up visiting family up north where it's woods and fields, absolutely, right? Mm-hmm. But not in the middle of the city. So I was super freaked out. I think I'm fine though, because apparently a tick has to be on you for 36 hours for it to transmit anything. So
yeah,
I was just like, not today, Satan, not today. Not today, Satan tick. So, do you have any fun plans for Pride Month?
I was thinking about on the third going to the Pride Parade in my local town, but so we've talked about this. We've talked about this that there's a general fear going on right now.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, like there's been like, I mean, last year we saw like threats toward Pride events that happened throughout the summer, right? And I
Mhm.
worry that it will be the same this summer, but it's going to potentially escalate because of all of the anti-LGBTQ plus rhetoric, bills, and threats that we've seen over the
Mhm.
past few months. What are your impressions on all that?
So you know I do tarot stuff. I was doing I was doing tarot readings that were I do like daily tarot readings, and I filmed them all at once, and it was for the whole of June, and it was specifically related to the LGBTQ plus community. Like I did use the queer tarot, and so for me, I saw I saw mostly good stuff for the month of June. Like I didn't see like a lot of like negativity, but I did see like a couple of concerning things. Like there was a day like around the 16th where I was like, I heard the words "Don't go to that event." I heard "Don't go to that event," and then around the 24th through the 28th, I heard it was like a culmination of like negativity, and it was sort of like there was just like a lot of conflict, and there was like a lot of like just bad energy around that time of the month. And I was just like, I know it's like woo woo or whatever, but I was just like I felt like a lot of like bad energy around that time of the month, and I was just like I feel like that towards the end of the month it's just like bad stuff happening. And I know that it's like woo woo or whatever, but I just had a bad feeling towards the end of the
Yeah.
month of like stuff happening. But I was talking to my friend Lisa, and she has a pride parade that she's going to for Chicago, and she said that she's worried about like a Boston Marathon happening.
Right. I mean, those are valid concerns, and I don't think it's woo-woo stuff. I think it's just demonstrating excellent intuition, especially with what's been happening lately, right? Like I know like we're planning on going to a couple of Pride things. I know at the end of the month I'm going to a local Pride event to like as an author because I'm going to be at a booth and everything like that. But I've been thinking about this type of thing too. It's like at what point should we be considering safety and prioritizing safety? But then like there's another part of me that's like how do we allow these people to cause us to fear so much that we are even afraid to go to the events or spaces or places where we're supposed to be safe and accepted, right? So like
Right.
I think it's worth showing that concern and exploring that.
Mm-hmm.
Um because at the end of the day, like we don't know what people will do. Like with all of these threats that like the places that we're going to be talking about tonight have been receiving because they have pride merchandise, like who's to say like people aren't going to threaten actual pride events as well,
Right.
right?
And I think that's something and that's really what I feel is though, because you've been feeling it, I've been feeling it, my other gay friend has been feeling it. I feel like it's something that we should acknowledge that there's a fear in the air,
Mhm.
about surrounding pride events and gay people gathering, that we're coming into this month, and that there is a fear, and that that's the reason why we should gather, is because they are trying to stop us from having, um,
Yeah.
they're trying to make it so that we don't celebrate, and that they're trying to make it so that we don't have our month, and
Yeah.
have our time, because they are trying to instill, you know it's that common fight where they always like have that backlash where they're like, you can't, we don't want you to exist, we don't want you
Yeah.
around. And it's that age old we don't want your kind around here. We don't want your kind around here.
And when they see that fear, though, too, like that emboldens them to continue what they're doing because they know that it works, right? And it's not like, as a community, like the LGBTQ plus community has faced so much minimization, erasure, like being prevented from gathering, being in spaces in the past, that like I feel like there has been no state of rest for people in our community necessarily, right? Because like while we might gain some advantages in one way, we have to worry about another election cycle contributing to, reversing of those advantages, right?
Absolutely.
So like I think it's very depleting. And obviously that's something else that we'll probably end up talking a little bit more about tonight as well. So do we want to do the show mission statement? I think it's your turn tonight.
Oh my God. Is it my turn?
I think it's your turn.
Should I read the Karen voice ever? Here we go. I'm going to read this in my most Karen voice ever. Here we go.
Do it.
We live in a dynamic society where social media shapes us by creating greater opportunities for connection. It has led to a developing understanding of the adversity many marginalized communities face, the powers causing the adversity, and those who act as bystanders as atrocities take place in real time. Our goal with this show is to make connections and have challenging conversations about social topics, current events, pop culture, and art. Together, let's weave the threads of understanding with what privilege we have in order to learn, educate, and create in a world that's growing.
A beautiful performance. End scene.
End scene.
Oh my goodness. And the truth is, everyone, we're trying to like insert some lightheartedness in this because like we are excited about Pride, but because of everything that's been going on, like there's a certain heaviness to it as well. So like we're trying to be mindful of our own bandwidths and mental health in talking about all of this stuff. So enjoy the humor because we're trying to defeat.
We're trying to keep this light, but this is very serious.
Yes, it's very serious.
So it's like we're putting on a face because it's a survival tactic. It's honestly like it's basically like how we've learned to survive these really heavy topics by like making light of the situation. But like it is a very serious topic, and it's like I put on this face of a Karen and like put on this face of these people who are very mean, because it's sort of like my way of trying to come to terms of the fact that like there are some really ugly people out there who say some really horrible, terrible things on the internet.
Oh, absolutely.
And in person. My friend was just telling me about trans people in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So obviously, like we are going to be talking about performative pride today. I want to harken us back to an episode toward the end of last season. I think it was just Heather and I in that episode, and we were talking about the commercialization of pride. And we're going to probably be referencing the commercialization throughout this whole discussion as well. But we wanted to talk about like performative pride. So like if we were to define what performative pride is, how would we define that?
It's every June 1st, some corporate company slaps a rainbow on
rainbow supernova.
Rainbow on it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that LGBTQ plus means lesbian, gay, bi, trans, and queer. It just for corporate, it just means rainbow. Rainbow means gay. That's all it means.
And it's all to make some money too.
But it's all
to make some money.
It's all to make it's all for your money because it has been shown that if you show a certain amount of diversity support, you will make money.
Absolutely. As we've noticed with businesses that we'll be talking about tonight, including Budweiser, Target, Kohl's, among a few. So just to provide some, oh, go ahead.
Because June 30th, 11:59 p.m., it's gone.
Oh yeah, like, and it's ceased to exist, right? Like it
It's like Cinderella effect, right?
It goes as quickly as it came. But so the reason why we're really wanting to draw attention to this topic tonight is because there have been some businesses who've been receiving a lot of threats, boycotts, etc., from conservative hate groups for even supporting or having Pride merchandise. So, like, the first that we'll talk about is Budweiser. This happened actually a few months ago.
Well, that's because they had a trans spokesperson, Dylan.
Yeah, Dylan Mulvaney. Yeah, so Dylan Mulvaney, like, I mean, she was the spokesperson, right? But also, like, there was like a marketing campaign released like photos of her posing with
and drinking the beer.
Yeah, and like a lot of people were not happy about it. Like actually an alarming amount of people.
I saw videos of like people losing their ever loving shit in like a Walmart, and they were destroying beer, but like they had gotten wrong and they were destroying Coors Light instead of Budweiser. Like that's just like it was, and he got arrested obviously, but it was just like the amount of like hate of like they were just like hulking out like rage, just like destroying things in the store just because they were so mad about. Did you see that video too where the guy was just like pulling beer off the shelves and just like
like that video? I saw videos on TikTok where like dudes with huge lifted trucks were like running over boxes of Bud Light. Like, I was just
did you see the video of the guy drinking the Bud Light and then he was like deep throating like the Great American Challenge? It was that big dog.
Am I getting okay? Sorry, that just hit me.
It was sort of like if you drink a Bud Light, it turns you gay. But like the point of him making the video is that he went out and bought the biggest giant dildo he could possibly. It was sort of like, did you buy that or did you already own that? No.
But so like, I was actually watching the news today, and Bud Light's stock has dropped 20%. So people like are like, there is a lot of anti-LGBTQ plus mobilization happening to boycott businesses that are being supportive of the community, which is concerning in of itself, right? The next one is Target. So Target's had a very complex past with supporting the LGBTQ plus community. If you do research on their history with supporting the community, you'll see that like they initially had supported anti-LGBTQ plus groups. Then they were kind of like guilted into donating to the community. And then it kind of like turned into like, oh, well, we can sell stuff to this community, right? So like their support has largely been commercialized pride.
It's always fun to see what Target puts out for.
Oh, absolutely.
I think I shared the video with you before all this happened of the Target collection for this year, and the collection this year was I was a little meh about it. We were both kind of like, oh, Target doing their thing again.
Oh yeah,
They're going to make money.
Every year.
We both kind of went into this month going, meh, we're both meh about it. It's the commercialization of Target.
So what set people off, what set these conservative, anti-LGBTQ plus people off, is that Target was selling stuff that they were like, that these people were deeming as grooming children. So first and foremost, like the biggest thing that they got upset with was these, I think they were like swimsuits, like they were tuck swimsuits where like a person wearing the swimsuit could like, conceal their, sensitive areas.
And the thing about it is that, I'm sorry, you don't just, I don't think you realize is that you don't need to have certain things to want to hide things.
Right. So why are they so upset? Do they want to see stuff?
I don't think they realize that liners and having certain types of swimsuits is not just for peanuts. I don't think they realize.
Well, the issue is that they associate it with the trans community specifically, or the drag community, because, drag queens talk, right? They associate it with those groups. So like their immediate reaction is like to be extremely transphobic, right?
Right.
Like to be like, oh, this is just another tool to, manipulate, this group of people.
Honestly, it's just because they see pride, they see certain words, they have a visceral reaction, and it's just because they're like reactionary dogs. They're just like, I'm gonna attack.
Oh, absolutely. So throughout on TikTok and YouTube, there's been anti-LGBTQ plus people going into Targets and protesting and destroying merchandise and throwing stuff on the floor.
Do you know what's really funny is one of those guys that was really throwing a fit about it. It came out that he had been very active on Grindr and that he was a closet gay. Did you know about that? The one of those guys that was super he had the videos and he was like, you call the police. You call the police. You know that guy? The guy who was
I know who you were talking about, but I didn't know that part of it, though. I'm not surprised.
It was over on Twitter, and Twitter they had showed pictures, screenshots of him being active on Grindr, and that he was actually very, very actively in the gay community, and that he was a closeted gay person, and that he was he actually had he was actually gay, and he was, but it's and isn't that always the truth? It's the ones that are so repressed and are the ones who, yeah,
they weaponize that. They weaponize their insecurity and then use it to attack other people in the community.
Right, because they're so insecure about their own sexuality that they have to attack other people because they can't be openly who they are, so they have to make other people feel guilty about who they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But so on top of it, so Target, apparently Target employees were being threatened, and Target's stock has now significantly dropped because of course it's been circulating on social media a lot, and it's just, and I'll talk a little bit more about what Target has done in just a moment, but I do want to mention Kohl's next, because apparently Kohl's has also been receiving some anti-LGBTQ plus flack because they've had clothes for kids that have had rainbows on them and pride sayings on them and stuff like that. Of course, people are indoctrination, blah.
It's part of that "don't say gay" bill again. Remember, it's sort of the fact that but don't people understand that gay people have kids and gay people don't want to give their kids clothes?
You would think, right? To expect that their children's never going to encounter, especially another LGBTQ plus person, and not be asking questions, how, what?
But the thing about it is that the straight community or these cishetes, they think these other people,
these people who are specifically anti-LGBTQ plus,
they think that we shouldn't have children, apparently, because we're not deemed as. And I think that it goes back to what they deem as problematic in our community as that there is the kink part of the community, that the sexuality side of the LGBTQ plus community, that there is that sexual aspect of the community, And so when they see that part of the community, they think that like there's a certain amount of perverseness to the community.
Yeah.
So like when they see that part of like the sexuality side, because it has to do with sexuality, the LGBTQ plus part of the community, especially like pride and stuff. When they see that, they think like, oh, it's perverse, it's sexual, it's, and so because sexuality is so there's such a repression in American society about sex and sexuality. It's sort of like sex.
It's purely puritanical too.
It's so Christian puritanical in this country. It's like talking about sex is so taboo in this country. It's sort of like we sell sex to people, but when sex is presented to people, when it's so blatantly put in front of people, it's sort of like they want sex as far as like the heterosexual male gaze, as to appease male as part of power dominance. But when it's subversive in any way, it's sort of like they lose their shit. It's sort of like when it does that, it's perverse, it's disgusting, it's almost pedophilic or something. It's wrong in some kind of way.
And that's their number one go-to when it comes to correlation or comparison. They compare it to predatory behavior in some way,
right.
Which of course the LGBTQ plus community has faced that for decades, hundreds of years. It's like the primary comparison, and of course it's completely different. But what upsets me the most, and what I find most ironic, is that these same anti-LGBTQ plus people who are criticizing the display or the representation of LGBTQ plus people, they are the same people who will plop their kids in front of a TV and turn something on where they are seeing sexuality, but cis heterosexual representation.
Because you think about it,
everywhere.
You see sex all the time in advertising, in movies. You see sexuality on display, full show, full stop. I mean, you think about like the early 2000s, the sexuality of like pop stars, or in like the sexuality of like just the full nudity, or like even on like just the advent of like pornography, and just like the ability to see, like when we were kids, it was so hard to look at, to be able to look at like pornographic images, but like the ability to look at straight porn now is so easy, and so definably easy to look at now. It's so ridiculous. And so like I don't think they understand, like they try to say that they're like Christian and stuff, and like they're so like, oh, we care about like family values and things like that, but just the advent of like the indoctrination, like the ability of like sex just inundating society. And like maybe they're talking about like they don't want that either, but like the fact is like,
well, they're worried,
but they sexualize their children in certain ways too, because they talk about like, he's a ladies' man and I'm protecting my daughter's sexuality, and like
taking ownership over like their daughter's sexual, like, which is creepy.
But even it goes beyond that. Like they're talking about their baby's gender and what kind of baby they want their children to be, or like what they want, who they want, what kind of adults they want their babies to be. Like how they want their children to act and behave as babies.
Oh yeah, like I mean, you'll see some like either parent be like, well, I want you to find someone who's just like me when you grow up. Like why? Like,
or they talk about, or they show little pictures of like precious moments where two little babies are kissing, and it's a little boy and it's a little girl, and oh, isn't that so cute?
And apparently that's fine, but like us existing is not acceptable in any way.
But that's the thing, like they want those things to happen. They encourage that sort of behavior. But if it were two little boys kissing or two little girls kissing, that's abnormal behavior. And if they want their little boy to be a little boy and to exert gender rules as a little boy, that's fine, because that gender role is acceptable because society accepts it. But if they were exhibiting feminine behavior, well, that's not acceptable because that goes against what society deems normal.
Right. Well, see, like what kind of frustrates me, like, and I was talking to you about this before, but on TikTok today, like I made a video responding to someone who was like, "Oh, well, it's about showcasing sexuality to children that I don't agree with." And the truth is, children are being exposed to sexuality representation everywhere. Media, clothing brands, makeup brand, like so like are you wanting to, delete all of those as well? Do you think that Victoria's Secret should completely change its branding simply because they
I
sell
mean,
undergarment? Like what, like
what if children want to? What if a little boy wants to play with a Barbie, or a little girl wants to play with, like, I don't know, like Transformers? I mean, is that subverting the gender roles?
exactly. Exactly. So like it doesn't, like, to me, like anybody who makes that argument, they're just using it as a convenient fancy way to be like, well, I just don't like, I'm just anti-LGBTQ plus. Like there's no, like, let's take off the rose tinted glasses and call it for what it is. This isn't some elevated, like, I don't like sexuality being represented. It is flat out being anti-LGBTQ plus, because again, there is so much representation of sexuality everywhere that, like to completely omit it from all society would be kind of unthinkable, or like an insurmountable task to perform, right? But because we're a marginalized group, we become the easiest people to target, right? Because we don't have as much representation.
I'm just saying, like, I don't think that we should sexualize children. That's
Oh,
the truth here.
absolutely
I
not.
don't think that we should sexualize children. I don't think those
Yeah,
things. But what I'm saying is that we have straight people presenting their relationships in a way. Why can't gay people present their relationships as they see fit?
exactly. Exactly. So like if you're worried about sexualization, then let's talk about sexualization all across the board, not just targeting one specific group of people.
Right.
Yeah. So like going back to Target really quickly. So because of the level of flack that Target has received, they've made the decision to scale back their Pride merchandise. In fact, some Targets are completely removing their Pride merchandise and sending it back to corporate altogether. So obviously, what does that mean for us as the LGBTQ plus community? That means that another entity or institution has essentially caved to the commercialization of it all,
What
right?
that really saddens me because they're, you know, the one good thing I really liked about Target in the last couple of years is being able to, as a non-binary person, um, Target was starting to, during Pride, sell binders in the store during Pride. So if you needed a binder, you could go to the store and be able to purchase it in store. So like getting rid of, during Pride, not being able to purchase binders or gender affirming hardware, that you need, um, not being able to purchase those products in which make our lives easier, is saddening, because and like it's part, because it's part of representation. That's the reason why we have Pride merchandise, is because it's supposed to be affirming to our identities. And like like the thing about it is like this Pride merchandise was made by LGBTQ plus people. It was
Mm-hmm.
made by our community. And like that's what saddens me the most, is that these, like, yes, some of it was corporate, and like it is like, part of the corporate, so it's like not exactly like the most inspiring stuff. It's like, it's corporate approved, so it's like, it's going to look a certain way,
Yeah.
it's going to look corporate. But the fact of the matter is, these are members of our community who are making these products and getting paid to make these products. And so like the fact is like it really hurts that when these things get taken off the shelves, it's them who suffer.
Yeah, and they have been suffering too, because they've, like, some of these people have gone onto social media, been on the news to, like, they've been receiving death threats.
And that really upsets me because these are members of our community, and they don't deserve that kind of hate.
Exactly. So not only are they getting the hate now, but they are also kind of being screwed over by these corporate entities who are just being like, oh, nope, no more, bye.
It's sort of like they're the ones who got thrown under the bus.
Absolutely. But like when it comes to situations like these, like the individuals in the marginalized communities are always the scapegoats.
It's always the gay people that get thrown under the bus first, honestly.
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean of all of it, like the trans community and like non-binary community and stuff like that, these are the communities that suffer the most, because it, like, the LGB portions of the community, at least we have certain degrees of privilege. We can rely on certain spaces to be in where we are safe. But that's not the case for these other communities, right?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, and that's why I'm worried, like, about pride and stuff. Is like, we go out into these spaces, and it's like, I mean, like, I at least cis pass, like, I at least pass as like feminine, and so like I can pass, like,
and I can pass as masculine.
I told my friend I'm she light. Like I'm wearing a wig, like I'm feminine, but like they're trans women, it's like if you're not passing, if you pass just enough, you're fine, but like if someone can clock you, then you're screwed. If you don't pass that marker, line, if your voice is just a little bit too deep, or if you have just one too many hairs on your face, or if you have that Adam's apple, it's like if you do one too many things, or if your chest is just a little bit too flat, if you do one too many things, if you just don't slightly pass just enough, if you're not hyper feminine as a trans woman, then it's sort of like, oh, what are you doing in the bathroom? What are you doing in the bathroom? I'm taking a shit. What do you want?
Well, like, and to me, like, that, like, people wanting to know that information, that's just as sexualizing as anything else.
It's fucking creepy is what it is. It's goddamn creepy.
Absolutely. Oh, the chat's been very quiet tonight, but Brian's here. Hello, Brian. It's good to see you.
Oh, Brian.
Hope that you're doing well.
But that's the thing, like, that's what bothers me the most, is that you get these cis people and these trans, it's sort of, and that's like it's sort of like you don't even want to use the bathroom sometimes, because it's sort of like, you get those.
Well, and panning back to, like, just pride stuff in general, like, it's made me feel very concerned about displaying pride stuff at all. Like, I mentioned this to you.
Did you have an incident happen recently?
Yeah, like, so I mentioned this to you this past week, but like, we live on a pretty busy street, like, and there's like schools around, like, so there's like, teenagers walking home from school, etc. And the other day, like, I was like just cleaning or whatever, and I heard teenagers screaming at us, screaming at our house, basically being like, F you, derogatory F word.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm like, are these just like two friends talking to each other? What's going on? So I look out the window, and they're like pointing at our pride flag that we have. And I'm just like,
that's horrifying.
Yeah. And so I messaged my partner. I was just like, hey, this just happened. It kind of made me like freak out a little bit. I'm just like, like, I am not dealing with this. Like, this is not going to happen. And like, and it was kind of like one of those like very sobering moments where it validated, like, yeah, like, I might live in a city that it's not like
A
blue,
big
but it's not like
city.
red. It's like a purple city.
Mm-hmm.
But like there are still people here, like parents who are teaching their kids that it's not
That it's okay to say that word.
that it's okay to say things like that and to ostracize the LGBTQ plus community.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you for saying you like my hair.
Yes, like it looks so good.
My sister said I look like Betty Cooper from Riverdale.
That's, I mean, I would take that as a compliment, right? Like I would say that. But so I guess at the end of the day, like, and of course, like this past week, since like I've been kind of like struggling with that, like I've been like really up in my head about like this thing that happened, and I'm just like, you know what? This is my home. I can display pride stuff if I want. And then I noticed
you display that stuff, Daddy.
Giatti, and I've noticed that like other people on our street now have pride stuff, and I'm just like, yes, I'm not alone.
You display that flag, Daddy.
Giatti. Brian says it's cute on you.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess at the end of the day, though, like if we think about like the ramifications of what makes this significant, it's isolating, right? Like being an LGBTQ plus person, it can always it can be isolating because like you might be in a place where like you could be the only person. You might be in a place where you're surrounded by people who are not supportive, who are very much anti-LGBTQ plus. Like so like my
weren't we talking about that in the back room? We were talking about that Texas has passed the anti-trans healthcare bills. So with that anti-trans healthcare bill, we've had trans people. I saw trans people on Twitter posting GoFundMe's the escape plan, like
yeah.
paid my GoFundMe so I can help escape Texas. I can help escape Florida, and I was talking to you about this in the back room that it feels like our country is starting to become like the Handmaid's Tale, where people are escaping danger zones of our country in order to live a better, safer life,
Yeah.
and that these places are becoming like bad for women for because they Roe v. Wade was overturned, and that they're becoming bad for just marginalized people in general, and that it feels like that it's sort of like there's becoming like an exodus from these territories because they're just not doing these, and it feels like it's growing this polarization. It's becoming worse, and I'm afraid of what 5 to 10 years looks like for us as far as this hyperpolarization going on.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, this hyperpolarization is happening because we see people in power like DeSantis and like other like very proudly anti-LGBTQ plus people like turning their states into like dystopian hellscapes.
But I'm just
For
worried. I'm just worried about what it means for our country. Like, I hate to say it again, but like succession, like is that a real concern for our country again? That there's a chance of like this Mason-Dixon line again of like possible succession again, and like that this is the next fight of our country, is that there are so many hyperpolarization of values that there is a possible future in which the United States breaks into two separate countries because we cannot get along, as far as we have one set of values that has one set of ideas about how this country runs, and another set of values because the South or these other places have different ideas about how the country should be run.
I mean, that's a valid question. I mean, like I've seen a lot of commentary about like people concerned about like that extreme polarization. Like the thing is like these people who are racist, sexist, anti-LGBTQ plus, they have been emboldened by the hate that's been popularized over the past 7 years. And that, like, we are now continuing to see the effects amplifying as a result of that. I do want to look at the comments really quick. Thank you, Brian. I'm glad that you like my new do as well. I kind of miss my hair, but
oh, it looks so good on you. I said you look like a early to mid 2000s
like a Backstreet Boy,
like a Backstreet Boy, or like just like a heartthrob.
oh stop it,
Oh, you know I love you, Daddy.
stop it, daddy.
Daddy.
But so yeah, like I needed to cut it so I can like regrow it into a style that I want. But Arpy's here. Hello, Arpy. It's good to see you. We've been talking about a lot. You're gonna have to watch the replay. There's been a lot.
It is so heavy. It is so heavy, the topic we're talking about today.
Yeah. Happy Pride Month, though. And Brian says DeSantis is not representing his constituents properly. He is a bringer of disconnect. Yeah.
I would say that.
Absolutely.
But I've said this about DeSantis before, is that I feel like he is like Jeb Bush, maybe turned up to the extreme, but very anti-LGBTQ plus, very anti-woman. It's in that same vein. I see him. He's the governor of Florida, like Jeb Bush, but I see him as maybe not. I see him as a threat to national politics, but I don't see him as much of a threat as people think he is. In my opinion, I think it's because we saw the threat that Trump was, and I feel like there are people in on the national stage, like as far as like people, because people have seen the threat that Trump was. I feel like people are more aware of people like DeSantis, and like so it's sort of like he's sort of like a specter that haunt. You know what I mean? That's sort of like, oh, we don't want to have DeSantis in the national politics. Let's keep him out of the national politics. He's in a pond right now.
My impression of like he himself is not powerful as a person, like on a wider scale, but I think that the validation that he and others have provided for this hate that we see, that is what's so insidious, right?
Absolutely.
Because more and more people are being like, it's okay to, you know, attack a drag queen reading to children in a library. It's okay to threaten a Pride event. It's okay to go into a Target. And
he definitely is contributing to a culture of hate, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. But and thank you, Arby. Thank you. So obviously, like, do we think that, like, I guess, what impact do we think businesses will continue to face?
So, you know, what it kind of reminds me of, do you remember the way that people on Reddit ganged up against GameStop and did the stock market crash?
Yes.
So I feel like this is white supremacist version of the GameStop thing. So what they're doing right now is they are attacking these businesses that are LGBTQ plus friendly. So they're directing their attention towards these things. So they're focusing their attention right now, and they're just doing this. I don't think it's sustainable in the long term. I think that what it is right now is that they're focusing on very specific businesses right now. I think it's not sustainable in the long run. I think that they use Budweiser as a way because there was a spokesperson. It was beginning of the summer. They had something that they could focus their attention on. And it was sort of like they had something to focus on. But now it's Pride Month. And so all of the beer companies are focusing their attention on gay people. Like all of the beer companies are. So it's sort of like it's coming from all angles, and it's sort of like, well, you know.
So are they good? Like, are they going to just boycott everybody then? All of a sudden?
But that's what I'm saying. It's like they don't. It's sort of like are you gonna? It's sort of like hate has. Are they like? Do they realize that like these companies are all connected? Like we live we basically live in an oligarchy, and all of these
Yeah.
companies are basically connected in our country. And so, like, if they boycott one, it's like they're gonna have to boycott all of them. It's sort of like Nestle owns most things, and like Budweiser owns a lot of products. And so, like, if they boycott it's all connected. That's the problem with our country.
Well, and what's fun, like, and I was
This the joy and the problem with our country is like you can't really boycott anything, because if you and like
so Brian says, fanatical people like these just hurt our everyday lives. He needs to stop bringing the hate, referring to DeSantis, I'm assuming. And then RP asks, would you say that Walmart removing their Pride stuff after June is performative?
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it would be extremely performative if they removed the Pride merch after getting some flack from people, especially. Because the truth is, like, these companies like Target, etc., they're going to do what they can to like omit losses, right? Like, even if it's going to compromise an entire group of people, their reasoning is like, oh, well, we want to care about the safety of our employees, and that's significant, obviously. But if that's the case, then why don't you invest in like better security measures, like, as opposed to removing merchandise that supports an entire group of people?
But let's be honest, all of these corporations, they don't actually care about gay people. Let's be honest.
Okay, yeah.
They honestly don't.
Reality check.
Walmart, Target, all of these companies, they don't actually care about gay people. They care about their money. And
I think
it's the same reason why they put Black History stuff out during February. That's why they put all of this other stuff. It's performative at best. Always.
And the truth is, like, we as community, like we as marginalized communities, we're like just so eager to see anything that like we're willing to kind of look past that reality, right? Like, if we see a rainbow being displayed somewhere, we're just like, oh, fine, somebody supports us, thank God. Like, because we've been conditioned.
Sort of like an abuse, like abuse victim. Like, oh yes, thank you for having something for me.
Thank you for caring, even, or like pretending to care. You know, like, it's true though, like, because we've just lived in this world where like there's been so much adversity that like if there is any support, like we kind of condition ourselves to be like, well, like some support's better than none, even if it's like this commercialized, artificially structured support, right?
But that's why it's gotten better over the last few years, is that like we've kind of insisted upon LGBTQ plus creators making the merchandise, so at least someone in the community is getting the bag.
Now, I will say, representation is representation, right? There is different qualities, like a different quality with regard to representation, right? However, like, I think that we've just learned to celebrate any type of representation we get because of like all of these very powerful anti-LGBTQ plus voices that are out there. Brian says LGBTQ plus people drink beer too. Anyway, I worked for Walmart and I don't think they're doing enough to show that they truly are supportive. They just want money. Yeah.
I guess I just need to go out and buy a case of Bud Light, because all of these homophobes are like dropping the stocks. I guess I just need to go out and buy a case of Bud Light.
You know what? Maybe I'll go buy a rainbow from Target. I don't know. Like, I know, like, we were talking about going to Kohl soon to like check out their Pride stuff, but you know, like, what am I going to encounter when I go into Kohl's? Like, if I am shopping around Pride merch, am I going to encounter a protester? Am I going to encounter somebody who is like wanting to like cause a fight or a scene? But that's something that we have to worry about now.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, you were like, things have gotten better. Like, I do think things have gotten better, but like within this last year has been peculiar.
Very peculiar, hasn't it?
Like, I think that ever since we heard those like whispers of the Supreme Court considering re-looking back at like marriage equality and protections for the LGBTQ community, it started going from there.
Don't Say Gay bill has, ever since that was on the table, I feel like just the white supremacy in this country, the neo-Nazis and all of that, is just gotten so out of control. Like this last year, and like I was talking about that I mention this every so often, that there's just like all these pipelines into white supremacy. Like, it doesn't matter what hobby you're in and stuff. there's always just like these pipelines into white supremacy, and you just have to be so careful about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's so pervasive that it's like they're always just out to get whoever they can to support their horrible fascist ideology.
Absolutely. So, like, now that we're getting closer toward the end here, obviously we've been identifying a lot of problems, right? A lot of concerns, a lot of areas that are worrying a lot of people. How do we fix it? How do we begin? I think that fixing it, at least personally, centers in allyship when you think
Yeah.
about it. Because the truth is, the LGBTQ plus community, while larger than it used to be, is still like just a small percentage of the population as a whole, right? So we
Well,
have to rely on
well,
allies.
just seeking out those who still care, and those who still have their heads on straight. I feel like it's so easy to get wrapped up in all of this hate, and it's just like we just need to remind ourselves that not everybody feels this way. It's like not everybody has these hateful thoughts in their head, and
Yeah,
like it's sort of like just, and like even just reminding these hateful people that LGBTQ plus people are just people who just want to exist and just
yeah,
live their lives and just have a normal life just like they do, and that finding that common ground of just wanting to exist and just
yeah,
have that we all want the same things on a base human level. And like I think that they get beyond this, that we're so perverse, and that we have all of these like weird ideas in our head about how we want to live and how we want to be. And it's like, no, we simply just want to live our lives that we want, that we all want to survive, we all want to make a living, we all want to have these base level of survival and thriving and having a sense of self and a sense of having like somebody who, having maybe like love and acceptance from a consulting adult partner,
yeah,
who loves us. It's just that, like I think that like they just have these weird ideas about who LGBTQ plus people are, about what we want to be, and like having like that we don't like have
like
like,
we're these sexual succubi trying to just suck the straight out of people.
or that we're just
It's
like
like,
these freaks that like don't that we have like these weird morbid ideas about how to that would exist, that like we just we're like these monsters that don't that that just have like these freakish ideas about it, that we don't have the same values as them in about how to live or exist, and that we don't deserve to exist.
yeah. Well, and see, like that's why I think allyship is so important. Quality allyship, not performative allyship. Well, we could have a whole nother episode talking about performative allyship itself. But what the another root of the problem is that the anti-LGBTQ plus people, those voices are typically the loudest because there are so many people who just don't speak up when it comes to their allyship. And like I'm not expecting people to like take up a mantle and be an activist, but like if you see something that's concerning, like address it, or at least go to the LGBTQ plus people in your life, check in on them, make sure that they're okay, like remind them that you're there for them, right? That in of itself will do so many things.
It's just like if you see somebody being like, I think this goes back to like bullying and stuff, or like just seeing somebody like being mistreated, just like stepping forward and like using your voice, or just like telling somebody that you care about them. You know what I mean? Like telling somebody that you're there for them, and that you understand them, and like that you want to be there for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not difficult to do. Like, well, and the thing is, like, I also think another part of the solution is education. I always think that education is a solution to almost every
I absolutely
significant
agree.
problem that we experience. But I'll have people, like, if I explain to them that there's a situation that, like, there's a lot of anti-LGBTQ plus stuff happening, they'll be like, I didn't know. Like
Just like understanding. I think
yeah,
I
just
think I just don't think they understand like how difficult it is for trans people. I just don't.
absolutely.
I think they just don't understand like what daily life is like for trans people, about like what they have to deal with and like what sorts of problems they have to go through, and just like how hard it is, like just the amount of performance that they have to go through just to simply get through their day.
Absolutely. And the fact that, like, just like, we think that we have few resources and few people of support, they have even fewer,
Mm-hmm.
right? And with
And just the
yeah.
amount of like hiding they have to do to like sometimes get through house to like keep their housing or get through jobs, or like sometimes they have to like hide who they are to be in the military because you
Mhm.
can't be trans in the military. Like just the amount of like performance and like hiding and like that they have to do to like be who they are. It's so
Yeah.
difficult, and it just sucks.
So Brian makes a statement like, we are from every place in the melting pot of life. There are LGBTQ plus in all of our lives. We just aren't always able to see them exactly. Exactly.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, like, to bring all of this into a full circle here, I know a lot of people may be concerned about celebrating Pride Month, but I think the moment we step away from Pride Month and stop celebrating is when we allow those people to win, you know? And don't get me wrong, like, it is important to consider safety, your well-being, etc. But we are here. We're human beings. We have a right to thrive and exist the same way everyone else does. And Pride is one of those ways that we are able to celebrate our history and also consider our legacy as at the same time. Any final words, Ari?
I don't know. I gotta go to the bathroom.
Well, everyone, we love you. Hang in there. We hope that you do have a good Pride Month. Stay tuned, because all of the episodes this month are going to relate in some way to being LGBTQ plus, okay, and Pride Month. So thank you for watching. Share our stuff. Click like. Subscribe to our channels. Subscribe to Ari's new channel, Strange Nothings, and have a good rest of your night. We love you. Okay. Bye.
Bye.